Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mathias Sundin. I'm the editor-in-chief of Warp News and the founder of Warp Institute, a foundation I started a few years ago. And Warp Institute is part of Project Energy Society. And the goal there is to use the logic from how the internet is built and apply that to the energy system, the energy grid. Which means that you will end up with an abundance of energy, and not just any energy, a clean, green energy. And we think that will really shift sort of the mindset of humanity, because we're, of course, super dependent on energy. We've been that all along, and we are that today as well. We've always lacked energy, and we still do, because it's expensive or damaging to the planet. But that is changing now with technology, and if you put these things together, and like I said, borrow the logic from the internet, we think we can get to an abundance of energy. And when you have an abundance of energy, when you don't have to think about, the last drop of energy, how we're going to use this. That would shift how we think about things, the things we do. We will do many new things that we thought would be unimaginable today. So, and the leader of this project is Jonas Birgersson, and he and his team in Lund. They've been working on this now. I heard this idea from Jonas 3 years ago. I immediately understood this is really something, because when you have dropping costs on solar, on batteries and all that, you see the components are already there, but everything is getting less expensive. So I immediately understood this is a really good idea and a really good theory. But so far it's been a theory, a good one, but still. But now it's not a theory anymore. What happened recently in Lund, Jonas? You pushed a button and something happened.
Yes, exactly. So, Matthias, thank you for having this call, and thank you for supporting us all over these last 3 years. We believe that energy society is really the next paradigm shift. And this last Saturday, we took a really important goal, because we now have the world's first operational EnergyNet, as we call it. And this is between 2 different buildings. We have a freedom cable between them. It's 2 separate buildings owned by 2 different real estate companies. And you have there's an office, and there's some apartments, and there's also a gym. And then there's a lot of mobility spaces, like parking spaces, and you have also a grocery store. Then I've connected with an independent parallel electrical grid, or as we call it, the freedom cable. There's an energy router in each of these buildings. There is solar, there's batteries on both sides, and they can now exchange electricity without paying for distribution, which is today the largest cost component of the Swedish electrical system, and the cost component that is planned to go up quite dramatically, because there's a lot of we talk about a lot of investment in the traditional electrical grid. And then we have a full stack. So apart from the cable and the routers, we now also have the energy router operative system, or EROS, as we call it, because sharing energy is sharing love. And then it talks to the network management system, and then that talks to the BSS OSS system. So my little company, via Europa, we're thrilled to become the world's first EnergyNet operator, helping the real estate companies that makes these investments to run it, to help them, with the project, but then to run it, every day, managing the system, and also the interactions between these local nodes and the traditional electrical grid. So all of the key components are here, and we now have verified them, everything works, and we are ready to start scaling this, because one key aspect of this, exactly that you talked about, Matthias, because of the hyperscale, because everything we do is commercial components off the shelf. And the critical thing that has enabled this to become not only practical, but also financially viable, is that the power electronics in the routers are the same power electronic components that is used in the electrical vehicles. So these are the components that makes it possible to transfer energy from a charger to the battery in the car. So now we can use them, and they're very price effective. They're commercially available. Just as a comparison, if you want to upgrade a transformer in the traditional electrical grid in Sweden, you have a delivery time of that project for 5 to 7 years. If we're in a pinch and we're ready to throw some extra euros on the cost of transportation, we can get these kind of power electronic components, we can get them in 5 to 7 hours. And the cost is like 1,000 to 1 if you look on the distribution. Just one funny story I wanted to share from the development team, because this shows exactly what Warp News is about. And this is the exponential development of these hyperscale components. Because when we started, we were working in what's called the low voltage space. And that definition in EU is that the low voltage is 1,000 volts and below. And we were operating at 800 DC volt because that's what the components were maxed out on. During the process, we now have a new generation of power electronic components coming from the chargers, because apparently we humans don't like to wait for things. So we now have 1,500 volt DC components that we can use. So everything is actually built, and even before we got into serial production, we can now see that the amount of energy that we can transfer on the same freedom cable has basically doubled even before we go into serial production, just because we're on the right path, we're on the right technical trajectory, we're on the right price performance. And of course, when we get even not only the vehicles, not only the chargers, but also buildings and neighborhoods and cities start running on this, of course, then it's a higher volume of the components and the prices goes down even further. And that's the kind of stories that I'm personally a subscriber of Warp News. That's the kind of stories I love to read about, how something that was impossible, and then it was possible, but it was expensive, and then it's totally available everywhere, improving all of our lives.
Yeah, and it is surprising that so many people miss this, because it feels when you say it and when you see it, it's completely natural, that this is happening over and over again. But still, people think batteries cost this much, and they don't see that it has dropped. The cost of batteries has dropped 90% in 10 years. So, and that's going to continue since we produce more and more of them. But if you would compare this in Lund, that's in Lund, and if you would compare it to the internet, what is that in the internet and in the internet's development?
Yeah, so basically, we are at the same. I would say we're at the same point in time as ARPANET. So instead of having the 4 university nodes, now we have these 2 residential and these mobility real estates connected. But it's a full technology stack, and the energy protocol is now published. It's open. It's free. Everybody can use it exactly as IP. So now anybody can build an energy router that can be compatible with the routers that we put into these buildings. And I think that's a necessity. We think that there should be hundreds and thousands of people producing their own energy routers, and may the best one win. And what is best is not for everybody, because what's best for you doesn't have to be best for me. So we can have a diversity of vendors. We can have local production. You can be independent, putting together your own energy system. But still, as with the internet, you can now share your energy resources with your neighbors, but also with a larger and larger group of people, because you build your network, and then suddenly your networks touch another network, and then you can distribute without distribution cost if you don't want to. And just one word on what's coming next and the potential and the scalability of this, because it's really incredible. Just in Sweden, and remember, Sweden has one of the best electrical grids in Europe. We have one of the lowest cost of electricity. And still, in Sweden, it is profitable to build this new parallel architecture. This shows you how incredibly strong price performance is, because we, of course, are now building in very small volumes, but we're using components that are in hyperscale volume already. And as you said, are expanding to even further volumes with better price performance. But the thing is, if this is profitable in Sweden, then basically it should be profitable in many, many, many places around the world. And we are breaking a gridlock because if you look on the US, there's more than 11,000 projects wanting to connect to the traditional electrical grid. And these would, if connected, they would double the amount of energy production in the US. And they are, by 90%, they are wind, batteries, and solar. And why? Because it's cheaper. It's easier. And what we can do with EnergyNet is that we can also build it super robust. Because if we don't talk about the green, we don't talk about the economy, there is an elephant in the room. And the traditional electrical grid is way, way too sensitive. When we took the internet architecture and put it into EnergyNet, we also took one of the key aspects of internet. Now you can decide to build locally your own energy solution without any single point of failure. So it becomes super resilient.
Yeah, that is something that's changed in my thinking. First, when you talked about this, I saw the abundance of energy and all the positive things coming out of that. But today, with Russia's war against Ukraine and the US retreating from Europe and the world, and I don't know what the hell they're doing, but all the things that Donald Trump has set into motion. Now it's for me this project is tilted over into that is very, very important based on that our security, because of course a network that is built up of thousands of small networks or thousands of small grids are much more resilient. You can't just strike one or two or 10 different points in the network and take out large amounts of the entire electrical grid. You have to strike all of them, and that's impossible. And even if you get cut off, your grid get cut off from the rest for a while, you still have some energy, you still have some electricity, and that's a huge difference between having none and having some electricity in a war or in a crisis. So based on that, I think this is very important, but also, of course, for Europe here, for the world, but we're looking mostly at Europe now. Of course, there's a real opportunity here from a security standpoint, but also from competitiveness. So what are the last question here? What are the next steps here now for you?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, after we now are practically live, with real deployments, I think we're going to come back to what we started with Energy Project together with you, Mathias, and Warp Institute, because the key thing here is that exactly as Sweden created, the world's first modern broadband solutions, taking the incredible American innovation of internet, combining it with building new cables of fiber, creating the modern broadband. And we also created the world's first digital telephony. So basically the two things that replaced the fixed old telephony network with something that was better. So it's not that we didn't like the old telephony network. It was just that you could do it so much better. And now you have low fixed cost for both mobile and for super symmetric bandwidth. I think that we're proving that we can break the same type of gridlock in the traditional grid, so that all of these projects that are waiting to be connected to deliver clean green energy can be done. And just in the Swedish context, we know that just filling up the good roofs and the good positions on the roofs with solar will produce more than 50 terawatt a year. And the Swedish energy system today is roughly 150 terawatt a year. So this green, cheap, super resilient local energy that is paid for by the market. It is not, socialized, it's not subsidized, and it's not these grand old, very expensive projects on energy and energy distribution. It is clean, green, it's cheap, and it's fast, and it's super resilient, and it can be paid for by the market. I think it's going to be a revolution if Sweden can take advantage of this, because by freeing up this from the local side, the traditional grid now will have 50 terawatts of power, a third of their consumption today, available for green transition of industry, available for green transition of transportation. And I think that will be proven to be the cheapest, the fastest, and the most secure way to kickstart the green transition. And if we can do it in Sweden, where we already have low cost, we have a pretty decent traditional grid, then there are lots of grid in Europe that could benefit even much better for this. And hopefully that can then spread to the world with some policy adaptations and so forth. Because who doesn't love clean green energy that you can run independently in your backyard together with your neighbors?
Exactly. Okay, so if you want to follow the developments of the Energy Society, we are reporting ongoing on them on Warp News. So sign up for our free newsletter, warpnews.org, and you get this once a week. So you'll catch the latest from the Energy Society. So thank you very much, and thank you, Jonas, for chatting with us.
Thank you. It was great. And remember, sign up, because Energy Society will be built by all of us together, and anybody can start getting involved with EnergyNet. It's an open free standard, and you can start building your own independence from energy right now.